How could one empire inspire terror so profound that entire cities surrendered without a fight? Discover the chilling punishments and shocking methods the Mongols used to control millions across their vast empire and keep rebellion at bay. The weight of fear, how the Mongols controlled millions. Across the vast territories that stretched from Eastern Europe to the Pacific, the Mongol Empire stood as one of history's largest contiguous powers. This was not just a feat of military conquest or clever administration, it was a regime built on the calculated use of fear. The Mongols understood that ruling over diverse populations, speaking dozens of languages and following different religions, demanded more than force. They made fear itself a governing tool, shaping both policy and daily life for millions. From the very beginning, the Mongols offered a simple choice: surrender and become a vassal, or resist and face total destruction. Vassals were expected to pay tribute, host Mongol representatives, and contribute troops, but those who resisted triggered a devastating response. Persian chronicles, such as those by Rashid al-Din, record staggering numbers: over 1,300,000 killed in Merv, and as many as 1,747,000 in Nishapur. Whether or not these numbers are exact, the message was clear and effective. The annihilation of these cities sent shockwaves through the region, and the story spread rapidly. News of what happened to places like Nishapur and Merv traveled faster than the Mongol armies themselves, carried by survivors and traders. For many, the mere rumor of Mongol approach was enough to spark panic, causing entire communities to flee or surrender without a fight. The Mongols' use of terror was not random or uncontrolled. It was systematic. After a massacre in one city, Mongol envoys would ride to the next, displaying the consequences of resistance. The psychological impact was profound. Cities often surrendered at the first sight of Mongol banners, hoping to avoid the fate of their neighbors. When Baghdad fell in 1258, chroniclers described the destruction of the House of Wisdom, with the Tigris River running dark with ink and debris from countless manuscripts. Such vivid scenes reinforced the consequences of defiance, turning Mongol violence into legend. Public displays of brutality were central to this strategy. The Mongols sometimes constructed towers from the bones of their enemies, making a spectacle of defeat and sending a clear warning. These acts weren't just about punishing a single city, they were designed to discourage resistance everywhere. The fear spread by these stories fractured potential alliances. Neighboring rulers, terrified of Mongol retaliation, often chose submission over solidarity, offering tribute, hostages, or public gestures of loyalty to avoid destruction. Yet Mongol terror was not entirely indiscriminate. They spared artisans, scholars, and skilled workers, incorporating them into the empire to support its growth. This selective approach made their unpredictability all the more unsettling. No city could be sure if it would be spared for its skills or destroyed as an example. The uncertainty, combined with the scale of past massacres, kept populations in a constant state of anxiety. Fear became self-reinforcing. Each new conquest and each new atrocity added to the Mongols' reputation, making resistance seem not only dangerous, but futile. The threat of mass execution, public humiliation, and cultural destruction altered how people thought about rebellion. Compliance was not just about survival, it was about avoiding a fate that had already become infamous across continents. But the Mongols' control did not rest on terror alone. They developed methods of punishment that went beyond the battlefield, turning execution itself into a tool for psychological domination. These punishments were designed to leave a lasting impression, not just on the condemned, but on everyone who witnessed or heard about them. Punishments. Without blood, the Mongols' unique execution methods. Among the Mongols, the act of execution was shaped as much by cultural belief as by strategy. They held a strong taboo against spilling blood during executions, convinced that bloodshed would block the deceased's passage into the afterlife. This belief gave rise to a range of bloodless execution methods, each intended to reinforce Mongol authority while respecting spiritual boundaries. One of the most well-known cases was the death of al-Mustasim, the last Abbasid caliph, after the fall of Baghdad in 1258. Hulagu Khan ordered his execution in a manner that avoided bloodshed. According to some accounts, al-Mustasim was rolled inside a carpet and trampled by horses. Other sources, like the historian Atamalik Juvayni, claim he was beaten to death. While the exact details remain debated, the intent is clear. His execution was designed to prevent the spilling of blood, demonstrating the Mongols' commitment to their beliefs even in moments of extreme violence. This approach extended beyond foreign rulers to those within the Mongol ranks. High-ranking traders, or those guilty of grave offenses, faced death by methods such as having their necks broken with a stone or over the knee, a practice described in sources discussing the Mongol legal code. This method, while quick, was chosen specifically to avoid bloodshed, reinforcing the seriousness of the crime and the consequences of disloyalty. These executions were often carried out in public, serving as warnings to others and reinforcing the message that even the elite were not above the law. Some stories about Mongol punishments, such as the case of Fatima, a servant of Toragin Khatun, have circulated widely but are not well supported by primary sources. Reports claim she was subjected to a particularly gruesome bloodless execution, but these details remain anecdotal and are not confirmed by the most reliable research. What is certain is that the Mongols' aversion to spilling blood shaped their methods and added a layer of psychological terror to their punishments. The Mongols' focus on bloodless executions was not a sign of mercy. Instead, it was a calculated choice that amplified the psychological impact of their punishments. The fear of being denied access to the afterlife, combined with the public nature of these executions, created a powerful deterrent. People feared not just death, but the manner of death and its spiritual consequences. Accounts of these punishments, often recorded by outsiders, contributed to the Mongols' reputation for ruthless discipline. News of bloodless executions spread quickly, reinforcing the perception that Mongol justice was both inescapable and uniquely terrifying. The methods chosen were deliberate, serving both cultural and political goals. Yet these executions did not occur in a vacuum. They were part of a broader system of law that governed the Mongol Empire. This system, known as the Great Yasa, provided the legal foundation for such punishments and shaped the way the Mongols maintained order across their vast territories. Understanding the Yasa is key to understanding how the Mongols combined fear, belief, and law to hold their empire together. The Great Yasa, the law behind the fear. Order in the Mongol Empire did not arise by chance. The Great Yasa, a legal code attributed to Chinggis Khan, served as the foundation for Mongol rule, shaping how the empire punished rebellion and maintained discipline. Drawing from nomadic customs and the realities of conquest, the Yasa established a strict framework that guided everything from criminal justice to the treatment of guests. This code was not a relic of the past, but a living set of rules adapted as the empire grew and faced new challenges. The Yasa's origins lay in the harsh environment of the steppe, where survival depended on unity and discipline. Chinggis Khan took these unwritten rules and formalized them, outlawing practices that threatened the stability of his new empire. Severe penalties were prescribed for crimes such as rebellion, theft, and betrayal, with death being a frequent outcome. The Yasa did not stop at violence. It also codified hospitality laws and military discipline, reflecting the multi-ethnic and mobile world the Mongols ruled. A unique aspect of the Yasa was its secrecy. The code was preserved in the Kakdeter, or Blue Book, and was accessible only to the Mongol nobility. This exclusivity made the law itself a source of power, as most people could not know the full extent of its rules or punishments. The uncertainty surrounding the Yasa added to its aura of fear. Outsiders, such as the historian Al-Makridzi, noted specific features, including the exemption of religious clergy from taxes, which demonstrated the Yasa's reach beyond simple criminal law. The code's attention to social customs, religious tolerance, and hospitality showed that it was designed to govern a vast and diverse population, not just to punish wrongdoing. The Yasa's punishments were direct and uncompromising. Acts of treachery or rebellion almost always resulted in execution. Even lesser offenses could bring harsh penalties. For theft or property crimes, the Yasa sometimes allowed a fine or ransom in place of execution, but this depended on the offender's ability to pay. Those without means faced corporal punishment or death. Contemporary accounts describe beatings with sticks and other severe methods used to enforce discipline, particularly among the army and nomadic populations. These punishments were not arbitrary. They were meant to deter disobedience and reinforce the authority of the Khan. The law was not static. Successive rulers updated the Yasa to address new threats and circumstances, ensuring that it remained relevant throughout the empire's existence and even in its successor states. The adaptability of the Yasa reinforced the notion that Mongol justice could reach anyone, anywhere, at any time. The code's combination of secrecy, severity, and flexibility made it a powerful tool for maintaining control over a sprawling empire. Through the Yasa, the Mongols institutionalized fear and discipline. Legal structures and punishments worked together, creating a system that discouraged resistance and kept order. The stories that survive in historical chronicles reveal how this code shaped daily life and helped the Mongols secure their grip on power. The Yasa was more than a set of rules. It was a mechanism for control, ensuring that the consequences of defiance were clear to all. This system of law and punishment was not simply about inflicting pain or demonstrating power. It was a deliberate strategy to maintain authority and prevent chaos, one that shaped the fate of millions. Conclusion: the punishments used by the Mongols were not random acts of cruelty. They formed part of a calculated approach to power, reinforced by the Yasa legal code. This framework gave structure to their tactics, from bloodless executions to psychological warfare, making fear a central tool of governance. Cities like Nishapur, Merv, and Baghdad are documented examples where swift capitulation or destruction followed the Mongols' arrival, while regions such as Khorasan suffered long-term economic and demographic decline after the devastation of essential systems. These methods shape the course of history and reveal how law and terror work together to enforce control. If you're interested in more dark histories of medieval empires, subscribe to the channel for future videos.